Hello, friend. It's Mark out on the back 40. And in this episode, we're going to go over lesson number 3 of habitat planning season, which is going to be talking about trails and access, blind and stand locations on your property. For the last episode, we went over my goal on this property. A couple years ago, I got real specific about the goal. And it's to have mature bucks moving on my property in the daylight, past my blinds, so we can get a good shot at them. So that was the goal. So I had to, and I kind of mentioned that I got into the brain of a mature buck, like how do they think? And, we know that they all need food, cover, water, right? You know that. But the degree to that you take each of those seriously is the degree of success I believe that you'll have with your property. I guess one of the things I didn't really mention was, I am in West Michigan, and hunter pressure here is very high, relatively speaking. I would say it's very high. I kind of went over how to the east, the property to the east of us, there's one guy that hunts there all the time. And there's a couple others that hunt there too, especially during gun season. So there's people hunting there all the time. And to the south of us, it gets leased out. There's people hunting there all the time. And all in our whole community in the area I'm in, all over here, it's a mix of farm fields and a lot of 40, 20, 10 acre chunks of people who hunt also. So hunting is a way of life around here. It is deep in our culture. There is a lot of people doing this. I think in the whole state of Michigan, maybe there's 9 or 10 million people, and of that, 10% of them are deer hunters. So, I mean, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of pressure on the deer. So pressure basically means, the deer get bumped around a lot. They know when it's hunting season. They know when it's coming because all of a sudden there's all these humans crawling around in the woods. So they get very smart. They go nocturnal. So I kind of wanted to give you that big picture, like there's a lot of hunter pressure. So the things that I talk about here, for some of you, if you're not in a high pressure area, maybe some of this, you don't need to be so detailed on some of the things that I'm going to talk about, because maybe the deer won't react as much to human presence or getting bumped around as they do around here. It's like once they get bumped around here, boom, they're gone. They go nocturnal. So you got to be really, really careful around here. Maybe your deer are more tolerant. So going back to my goal, the first thing that I had to think about was, if I'm a mature buck, what's the most important thing to me as a mature buck? In my opinion, is that it's a feeling of security. Like, if you've got the greatest food on your property, you've got the greatest, most fresh, most awesome water that's there, and if you've got cover like crazy, thick, nasty cover, but you go out there all the time and there's people going through there all the time, the deer won't be there, especially a mature buck, because they need to have that feeling of security above all else. So I don't know if you agree with me on that or not, but I hope you do. And if you really just think about it, if that was you, what would you do to stay alive? Number one for me would be to make sure that that I've got a secure place to live. So I guess that's what I would say. With that in mind, I had to turn around and look at my property again and go, okay, what do I need to do on this property to make them feel secure? Not that they have to actually be secure, because I'm hunting them, right? So are you. But what do I need to give them the perception that it's very secure here? So I thought to myself, I can't go out on the property, because when you're hunting, there are 3 ways that deer feel pressure. When you're on your way to and from your hunting location, your stand or your blind, if they see you, hear you, or smell you. So that's number 1. Number 2 is when you're actually in your tree stand or your blind. If they hear you, smell you, see you, they're going to know there's a human there and take off. And then the third one, I think that maybe a lot of people don't take seriously enough, is after you leave. After you are gone, I am convinced, and I learned a lot of this from Randy Vanderveen. He's got some videos and some game camera footage, and then I have my own sites. I don't have anything on video to show you this. I just have my own experiences that I've seen. But after you leave a location, your scent is still there. And I don't want to get into an argument about scent lock and rubber boots and sprays and all that stuff. It's not worth getting into an argument about it. I respect everybody's opinion about that, and it is all opinions because none of us know for sure. But even back in the days when I would wear 2 layers of scent lock and take my shower and do all the sprays and I mean, I even dunked my boots in activated carbon. I mean, I was big into scent control. Those buggers would still catch my scent. And especially I could see that even when I was up there hunting, they could find where I walked in. Like they would walk, like how do they do that? I have all my scent is gone. So I have this opinion, and I think others do too, that I just want you to consider the scent you leave behind. You don't even know it. You're pretty much ignorant to it. I was ignorant to it. I'm still ignorant to it, but I think it's there. And so that's where I challenge you is maybe think about your property. Like maybe you're getting in without bumping deer. You're hunting without bumping any deer. But after you leave for another 8, 10, 12 hours, I don't even know. Maybe it's longer than that. Your scent is still there. So are they learning that you were there after you're long gone? The next morning you're up, you're off at work, and that buck comes cruising by and ooh, he's got a little scent that, you know what? I smell that a human walked across right here. There hasn't been a human here in 11 months. Why is there all of a sudden a human here? I'm not going around there anymore. So it is that frame of mind that I used when I made all these changes I'm going to talk about right now on my property. So I used to have a trail that went from my house, and watch my cursor here. My cursor right here is my house. I had a trail that went right up through the middle of the property like this. And you can still see there's some remnants of it right around here. See that in there? And I had a deer blind over here. I had a redneck for a year or two right here. I had a blind right here for a while. I had one right down here. And those blinds all seemed like they worked fine at the beginning of the season and even towards the end of the season, but the deer would all come in later and later and later into the food plots and almost like right at dark. So what I think was happening is as we walked up here, went to the blinds, we could get in and out, we'd bump them once in a while, but our scent would linger on as they moved around there after dark. So they knew that we were in there. They knew we were in there hunting them. So I decided a few years ago to change where I put all the blinds. And I'll just have you look at this layout here for a second. You can see where the blinds are. So what do you think my strategy was? It was to hunt the outside perimeter of the property, let the deer have the inside of the property, and then I'll do setups to try to draw the deer to my blinds under my terms, not under their terms, under my terms. So that was kind of a mentality shift right there also. Like, I guess how a lot of us were taught to hunt, at least I was when I bought this property, I went out and I scouted the property. Where do the deer go? Where do they bed? Where do they travel? And then I would try to hunt those spots. And what that really did is it meant that I was pursuing them under their terms. And part of this whole process, when I set that goal, that very specific goal was, no, I'm going to turn this around. It's very subtle, but I think it makes a difference. Like, I'm going to make them move on my terms. I'm going to hunt on my terms so I can control this so they don't know that they're ever being hunted. They never know that they're being hunted. And so that's why I took all the blinds that were on the inside of the property, and you can see I moved them to the outside of the property. So that's why the west blind is here, north blind is here. I don't like this sanctuary blind being this far inside the property, but it's a redneck up on a 10-foot stand. I think I got to get maybe a skid steer in there or something like that to lift that bugger up. My tractor won't lift high enough, but to lift it up, and I want to move it over here to where this tent blind is, again, so I can get in from the outside. Now, up around the house, I learned this from Jim Brooker. He's got a few videos. He hasn't been doing any lately, but when he retired, he kind of got into this for a little bit. But he gave me the idea that deer are used to human activity around their houses. And I kind of thought like, man, and he did a video like this where he had a barn at the back of his yard, and he up in the loft, he put a little hunting blind in there, and then he had a food plot back there so he could hunt deer from his barn. And I thought, that's a great idea. I could do that around my place. And so that's why around my house, where deer are used to the smell of humans, they're used to activity. We let the dogs out, they bark all the time, and it doesn't bother the deer. That's why I put this fort right here, this ridge blind right here, and this railroad blind right here. All right around the yard of the activity of the house. So if we go out to hunt in any of these blinds, it's not going to set them on alert that there's a human around here. They're used to humans being here. So basically the perimeter I've considered the outside of the yard and then all around the outside of the property. So I'll keep going maybe just a little bit more, and then I'm going to stop and I'll do more later on other details. So one of the things that I did, moved all the blinds to the outside. So how do I get to these blinds around the outside of the property without bumping deer? So they can't see you, they can't hear you, and they can't smell you, right? Those are the things that we need to make sure they can't do. Well, number one, so they can't see me. I have around the whole perimeter of the property, and if I bought a new property, I would do this. I have a 2-track around the outside of the whole perimeter. So I can drive my tractor, most of it I can drive my truck, a golf cart, I can drive all around and walk all the way around the outside. So what I did so that the deer never smell me is this. I always go to my deer blinds on that outside perimeter no matter what. So just look at this layout a second. You can see up here in this north, right here, see this little line about 10 yards into these pines? To make it so that the deer can't see me, I had to go through and cut a ribbon of all these Scotch pines down all the way around the property. So down here and about right here, you can kind of see it's right here. It goes down. See this right here, this little area? These are standing pines on each side. These are where I fell about a 10-yard wide strip. And so when I knocked them down, it was a visual barrier. And as they degraded, now a lot of saplings and a lot of new growth is coming up that is thick enough that they can't see me. So most of the perimeter of the property now, they can't see when somebody is walking around this outside trail. So what that has done now is we can get to and from our blinds without deer being able to see, hear, or smell us, because we have the block for visual all the way around there now. They can't hear us because I spray Roundup on that trail, so there's no, and you just walk real quiet, right? But I spray Roundup on that trail, so it's like dirt. And then smell, you always have to play the wind. You can't go to any blind you want. You always have to hunt a certain blind, but there's always a way to get there without them smelling you. So I guess that's maybe, I'm going to stop there. It feels like I've been talking a whole lot here. But again, that concept, I'll develop it further where we want to make the deer move on our terms, not us hunt them on their terms. And the two things that I would suggest that you think about right now is where should you put your blinds and how should you get to your blinds? All right, so there. I'm going to stop with that, and next time, maybe I'll talk about more detail on some of that stuff. But I'll see what kind of questions you guys have, and then maybe they'll teach me or let me know what I should do next for a video. But I got a few other things in mind, but let's just kind of start with that. Thanks for watching. Look forward to the next video. See ya.